In this video, we're going to discuss the sit behavior. So here you can see I've kind of arrived at a park, and there's a nice little park bench here. So I'm just going to have a seat. Just going to press E, and I just sit on down slowly. Just sit back and enjoy the park. It's a nice day out. There's some folks enjoying the park around us. I haven't been on a swing set in a very, very long time. Kind of tempted. I'm going to go over there and sit on the swing set as well. So you can see that the swing set has a sit command as well, so I'm going to go ahead and sit on that. And the the chain broke, and I immediately got right back up again, as you can see. So that's the sit behavior. Honestly, there's not a whole lot to say about sitting down. I think we're all very familiar. But let me show you how the behavior works. All right, so as you can see, I've got the sit behavior on the bench. I've also got it here on the swing set, obviously. I'm going to examine the swing set one because it's got this set up for how I was able to stand back up again. So I'll just show you that one, but it's the same. They're basically the same. So you start with the use prompt, which is what you see when you get close to the swing set. So we saw that it said E, press E to sit or stand. So it's the same command either way. You sit down, you stand up, it's E either way. You have the use range. Now I've got this cranked up a little bit so that I wasn't having to look straight down at the seat, because when you do that and as you sit down, your camera doesn't really change. And so you're just kind of sinking into the ground. So being able to have my camera sort of straight on helped when I sat down, just for the effect and the visual. Then we have the use style. Again, same thing here. If I do accurate, I have to kind of point directly at it. So I used range. So that combination of the use range and the ranged use style allowed me to keep my camera mostly like straightforward and still be able to sit down without changing the camera angle for any reason. We have three offsets here. So we have the seated X position, the seated Y position, and the seated Z position. So as a reminder, in case you're not familiar, the X is the red axis here. So if I put an offset, that means I would be slightly off to the left or the right, depending on what I put in my offset. As you can see, it's 0, so it's centered to the object. And then we have the seated Y position. Now, the default for this value is 40 units, and that means that's the height of the seat, 40 units from the ground. So depending on the seat, you might decide, it's a little higher, it's a little lower. You're just gonna have to dial that in. For my part, it was pretty much the same, so I just left it as the default. We have the seated Z position, which is similar to seated X, except obviously the blue line is your seated X, or seated Z rather. So you would be forward a little bit or backward a little bit depending on the seat. So again, really just depends on the object you're using and how far you want to adjust. So maybe I want to have him sit down, but at the end of the bench for some reason, I don't know. And then we have the stand adjustment. So when I stand back up, I'm going to stand up, but I'm not going to stand directly up, because then I would be on top of the object, and that might cause some problems with movement. And so we want to see a stand adjustment to push us away from the object, so that when we stand up, we'll be this distance away from the object, just to avoid any conflicts or any potential hazards of getting stuck within the object itself, not being able to move. We have the seating speed. Now, I'm an old man, so I kept mine at 5. Maybe you sit down a little bit faster. It's up to you. Okay, so I guess it kind of depends on your character. Then we have the horizontal view limit. That really just means that I could pan my camera left or right, horizontally, up to 90 degrees. So obviously you wouldn't want to make that much higher, because then you'd be like kind of looking backwards. Then you have the vertical limit, kind of same idea. It's panning the camera up or down. I just left all these at default, so you can try it out for yourself and see what you like best for your scenario. You have the prompt display, which is either local or screen. So just like in a lot of other behaviors, if you say local, it's local to the object, meaning it's near the object. You point at it, that's where it shows up. If you choose screen, then it's going to be at the bottom of the screen regardless. So Again, just personal preference, I think. In this case, it made sense to keep it local. Item highlight, I've done a whole separate video on this, and so I won't go in through much detail except to say that if you choose shape, the entire shape of that object would be highlighted as I think a green color. If you do outline, it would just be the outline of the entire shape. In this case, it really didn't make any sense to do something like that. It's really best for like dark environments or something where you really want to call out, hey, this is an object that you can interact with. And then we have the sit trigger, which is really what I wanted to point out. So in the scenario where I am sitting down and I want something to happen as a result, in this case, I wanted the swing set to break when I sat down, then I choose trigger and stand. I could also choose just trigger. So maybe I sit down in an office, and right then the private investigator comes to the door and sits down with me or whatever. I'm just making something up, but that would be one scenario where you're just triggering something happen when you sit down. Trigger and stand means you trigger something, but you immediately stand up. So in my case, the swing broke, so I immediately stood up because otherwise I'd fallen to the ground. What I'm triggering here is two things. I'm activating this broken swing when I trigger it, so that's invisible until I trigger it. But then also I'm activating this bush, and this bush has destroy object, and the destroy object is destroying the whole swing. And so what ends up happening is this gets destroyed, this gets revealed, ergo swing just broke. And of course you heard the little ting sound. That's supposed to be the chain breaking. Lastly, we have the sound, which is what I just mentioned before. The sound, what happens when you sit down? Is it a whoopee cushion effect? Is it a leather chair and it has that kind of leathery sound when you sit down into it? Whatever sound effect that you want to play when your player sits down. That's it. That's the sit behavior. Frankly, a lot more involved than what you might expect for such a simple activity in real life, but there's a lot to it and a lot of flexibility as well. If you enjoyed the video or if you learned anything new, please be sure to click the like button down below. That helps me out. If you're new here or if you just haven't subscribed yet, we'd love to have you stick around. And lastly, if you'd like a notification for whenever new videos are posted, just click the bell icon and that'll let you know when a new video is ready for you. Thanks so much for watching all the way through. I always appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now. Hey, don't forget there's a written guide for every behavior, including ones I haven't yet covered on this channel. And if you want to learn some more, why don't you check out this video next.